Hey everyone, hope you enjoy this exclusive release from our Patreon. This was a real blast from the past to talk about Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Hope you enjoy it.
Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and today we are here with Dark Side of Reality TV, Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
People usually say Extreme Home Makeover, but that's not it, because this used to be a whole different show, Extreme Makeover. And then this was a spin-off of that show that was specifically around homes, because the original makeovers, they get into it a little bit here in this episode with the backstory and the lore of Extreme Makeover, because of course it was plastic surgery stuff, messed up early 2000s body transformation things that were taking place.
Wasn't it like really nostalgic though to remember that era of reality TV?
Oh, when we were going to get this episode, it was like, do you want to buy the HD or the SD version? And I was like, I'm pretty sure 90% of this footage is going to be SD. So we will be doing standard definition for this purchase. Thank you.
What happened? Like, cameras evolved rapidly between the period of 2005 and even stuff like into the mid 2000s looks like garbage.
Oh yeah, it was because the cameras that were used in production, it was recording to tape and then they had to be digitized. So it was an analog format, and most of the tapes, they were just really crap resolution. And then you were also putting them through an additional processing. So until digital cameras were able to be recorded straight into the camera as is in the format, a lossless format, that was why there was this steep decline in television production quality.
All right, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think that you were going to...
Oh, you didn't think I had an answer for that? Why wouldn't I have an answer for that? It was
kind of like a little rhetorical, like, didn't it look like shit? And then you're going,
No, there are answers for this. It was definitely technological advancements in cameras, but then the mediums that were being utilized, because if it was on film, yes, that was good. That was good quality, and it's great for digitizing process, but tape was not great, especially early tape. And when they were trying to go more mobile sized for... You don't want to talk about this as extensively as I am.
I'm trying to hold in a yawn.
Okay.
I'm having a James moment from Love on the Spectrum. This is obviously part of the Dark Side series from Vice, and they're all amazing. So if you haven't checked them out, you need to. There are too many to track at this point.
Dark Side of Comedy, Dark Side of the Ring for all the wrestling stuff, Dark Side of the Cage, I think, for UFC fighting stuff.
Dark Side of the 2000s. Was there Dark Side of the 90s too?
I think so.
There was. Dark Side of Reality TV, which is a series. They're a little hard to find. At least Dark Side of Reality TV is, because I think this is one of the newer seasons that's been released.
Dark Side of Comedy and Dark Side of the Ring, I've been watching those on Disney Plus and if you have Hulu, it's on Hulu.
They're bangers all throughout the season, though, because we had a hard time picking which episode to put in the poll. There was like The Swan, the other makeover show. There's Toddlers and Tiaras. There's one about Survivor.
Hell's Kitchen. Gordon Ramsay stuff. Or Kitchen Nightmares, I think
it was Kitchen Nightmares.
It might have been. Well, it might have been just a Gordon Ramsay show, because there's an entire line of reality TV that you can dive into that's just Gordon Ramsay traumatizations.
Remember how bad the intros were to all of his shows?
Hotel Hell was the worst one, though, I think, with the tiger on the bed. I don't know why that stands out, but it does. It's like the bear guy in The Shining, you know, if you get it.
Sure.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
I started thinking about the show The Bear, because I felt like there was a close connection to Gordon Ramsay.
That's close.
All right, this episode, here is our description. Giving new homes to families in dire straits seems anything but dark, but Extreme Makeover Home Edition viewers don't get to see how the houses become money pits that lead to families falling out and massive debt.
It's kind of like the lottery, the people who win the lottery sort of notions, like
and then destroys their life.
Yeah, or like they spend it all, they've lost it all, then within a certain amount of time, within like 5 years or 2 years of winning and receiving that and stuff. So I think it just kind of fell into that category where it was just one of those generally approached, not like urban myth, but that was just a general consensus that was reached of there's a lot of misery behind Extreme Makeover Home Edition, but the cameras aren't there for that part.
That's kind of come out in the years since the show ended, because I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed watching this.
I mean,
do you remember?
Everybody liked it. Was a feel-good reality TV show. Is it reality? I mean, this doesn't feel real to me in a lot of ways, I guess, if that makes sense.
It's kind of the magic formula of an ABC show, where they take a charismatic host that they stole from elsewhere. So they have Ty Pennington, who came from TLC, none other than the Learning Channel.
Is there more to the formula? The charismatic host. That's one part. I feel like there would be more to that.
A depressing story about the people that we're going to focus on.
They're going for the Nicholas Sparks formula here, where it's tragic heartbreak and a conveniently relatable disease that is prominent in most people's lives. So it's just these elements that they can calculate out the heartstrings to tug on, to get the emotional reactions out of people, to get butts in the seats and eyes on the screen. That's the main goal here. And add revenue in their pockets.
This explains so much. The amount of product placement that was packed into this show is maybe the most that has ever been featured in a reality TV series.
I think I noticed it in later seasons of it. I mean, I didn't watch the show religiously. I wasn't a huge fan watching every week, but I remember dropping in on it or just catching it randomly here and there. Earlier on in the seasons, I don't think I noticed it as much, but then it became very heavy-handed later on.
You know what? I'm going to give them a compliment, because this is where product placement makes sense. It didn't do much for Sears in the long run.
Well,
but if you're going to be redoing a home, you're putting all new appliances in it, you're building it, having things sponsored by Sears doesn't feel out of place. Unlike when you're watching an episode of Married at First Sight and two people just randomly start talking about their home security system that is making them feel so secure.
Well, I guess they probably could have dropped in a few of those. If the cameras had stuck around, we come to find out there are big problems after the cameras leave in most of these cases.
How did Gypsy not end up on the show? Like, do you think Dee Dee Blanchard was entering her repeatedly?
Oh, yeah, that's what we need. Some found footage of the Dee Dee and Gypsy.
The casting tape.
Casting tape where they are trying to get picked to be on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Well, they got their own version of that.
They did get their own home built for them.
And theirs was better because it wasn't one of these big jumbo homes. So maybe that was it. Dee Dee could sniff out, this seems like a grift.
I mean, maybe Dee Dee would still be with us today if it had been more complicated to enter the house and find her within it. If it had been one of these mega mansions. Food for thought.
I guess, yeah, it's something to ponder.
The other piece of the formula is you have to have an unrealistic timeline. We're going to build an entirely new house in 7 days because we need to pack up and move on to the next location to do it again.
Well, and how terrible is this working situation for the people who are involved, the designers who are on the show, where you work for 7 days and then they're off for 2 days and then you're on to the next project. That's it. You keep rolling through.
I don't think they're designing them in real time.
Well, I mean, they have to be there for it.
You knew all the stuff about cameras, but you don't think that in pre-production for the show, they already worked together to figure out exactly what the house is going to look like?
Well, it's even worse. Then you just had to front load all that work. I'm just talking about being on site for 7 days and then you're off for 2 and then on again for another 7. That's a pretty bad deal.
That does kind of suck. And they're long days, which we find out from Cassandra, one of the victims, should we say?
There is no rest for the weary on the set of Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Cassandra's story brings us back to the conversation about casting. and how at one point their wish list came out and was exposed, where they're looking for families that have certain situations. Like, what was the little old man disease? They were looking for a Benjamin Button to feature.
I think this was right around the time when Benjamin Button came out. Curious Case of Natalia Grace Benjamin Button. And so, yeah, somebody at ABC was like, this is how I picture these sort of executive producer and director level conversations. It's just somebody sitting behind a big, huge desk in a huge leather chair with a cigar hanging out of their mouth and say, get me one of those guys. And they're just pointing at, they're watching the
Curious Case of
Benjamin Button. And that's what they want, one of those guys. Get me one of those baby guys.
I mean, that's pretty much what the emails were like. And that's why people felt like they were very crass, or they weren't worded in a way that made it feel like there was as much empathy behind it as they're making the show seem. They're making the show seem very altruistic, but it's really just ABC coming in and trying to make good television. And that's when we meet Cassandra and her mom, Nicole.
Good television is in quotations, I think, for this too, because this is very exploitative by nature. And then they're trying to say, well, we're helping these people. So in their minds, they get to pat themselves on the back for a job well done. Every week, we're changing people's lives for the better because their life was pretty crap when we found them. So we can't make it any worse, right? Those are the best people to deal with. You can only go up from here, probably, just like the housing market.
This first story is really fucked up. Cassandra has a form of cancer where the expectation that she is going to live is 8%. She has an 8% chance of surviving it.
That's pretty low.
She's still here with us today. So she overcame the odds. Despite everything Extreme Home Makeover Extreme Home
Makeover tried to do.
Yeah. Man,
everything.
Extreme. Why is it
Extreme
so hard?
Makeover.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Home. Because she was a big fan. During her treatment, she was watching every week with her mom and was like, hey, my friend Gypsy said, maybe we should try it.
We would love to get our hospital on here.
Maybe.
She didn't even want her own home remodeled.
That's the kicker for this one, for me, okay, is that she didn't even ask to have her home made over. She wanted the hospital that she goes to for treatment in Tucson, Arizona, to be made over. She did not ask for her house.
For the other kids.
For the other children and for her enjoyment, and then for the future generations of children who will be utilizing this hospital space for their healing journeys.
And the producers were like, man, that is a great wish. But
That
this is a show where we remodel homes.
You know what? That is altruistic, but it's not called Extreme Makeover Hospital Edition. It is Extreme Makeover Home Edition. So we're going to rip down your home and we're going to rebuild it in 7 days, which honestly, I mean, I was worried about that at the time. It didn't sound like that was a good idea, but seeing how the quality of houses that are being built now probably can't be any worse than that.
They might be on the same timeline.
7 days. Yeah, it's like an experience with the ring. Samara coming out of the well. That's about how long it takes.
The worst part of this is when they show up and they tell them that they've been selected to be on the show, they leave out the part about how they're going to redo their house.
It's a surprise because we're going for reactions. Laughs are cheap. We're going for gasps.
So Nicole and Cassandra and the rest of her family are under the impression that they're just working on the hospital.
They're like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what we asked for. This is going to be so wonderful, and we're working so hard. We're going to spend the week doing this. Normally, this was the other ripoff of this setup because typically they take the family and they go on an all-inclusive resort vacation for a week so that they don't have to worry about the renovations. They don't have to be at home for it. Meanwhile, they're putting them to work remodeling an entire hospital. That's how you spent your week. And then you come back.
A little girl
Yes.
who is still going through cancer treatments.
Actively receiving cancer treatments and is on pain medications and is suffering the entire time this whole week that you are putting her through grueling production days.
And all she could think about is how much she wants to go home to her bed after this is all over.
I can't wait to get home and to just settle in, and a job well done. But they roll up in the limo because they knew something might be amiss. When the windows were tinted as much as they were, something was off. They knew this was going to be a problem. And as soon as that door opens and Ty Pennington is standing there, you know that your fate is sealed at that point.
I think I would have had a panic attack.
This kid didn't even know what was about to hit her.
No, but her mom, right before she got out of the limo, was like,
oh, no.
Hold on.
Oh, no.
Maybe it's possible that they did our house also.
What if they did? Oh, my God. What if they did?
I feel like I would have gone back to check on it. I would have had some family member, someone.
No, they were sequestered.
I know they're sequestered, but I would be worried. What did they do? Do they go through all of your stuff? Do they go into the house? They take everything out because then they knock it down.
No, they bulldozed it. Yeah, they just...
Not with all the contents inside, right?
You would think, but I wouldn't put it past them. At one point, they were coming up with creative ways to demolish a home as fast as possible. They just started blowing up houses, guys. It happened.
It's true. They showed it.
After 100 episodes, you got to come up with new ways to knock down a house. You can't just keep putting sledgehammers through walls. Everyone's desensitized to that. We need to see a wrecking ball, not Miley Cyrus swinging from it. We didn't know that was what was going to be, the future for wrecking balls.
Maybe in the reboot.
Maybe in the reboot. Yeah. They had to rethink a lot of things. Not that they did anything wrong in the original one, because we're not admitting fault. But we just wanted to rethink some things if we're going to bring the show back.
When they saw that house that was just in the middle of that huge plot of land, they were jonesing.
They were like, what if we...
the TNT.
Okay, what if we drop an atom bomb on it? Just decimate, a mile radius around this entire home. Can we do that? Can we get the approval on that?
Isn't it odd that they thought they had to keep upping the entertainment value when Ty came from Trading Spaces, where we watched them do the exact same thing over and over and over and over again?
With $0 budget. And mostly it was just, they kind of mentioned that it was the reactions at the end. That's what people were waiting for. And I mean, you did get that, because then that was the move that bus moment that kind of came from this series. That was bigger than the show itself. It became a whole vibe at one point.
So they move that bus and see that their house is, 4 or 5 times bigger than it was when they left it.
Oh, no.
Was this the house that had the movie theater inside of it?
Yeah, because they said that the light bulb for the lamp alone was $900. And I was like, that's an entry-level price for that. If you're upset by that, count your lucky stars. There are some projectors that are tens of thousands of dollars for those lamps.
Do you think that they put their stuff in storage, or they just all their old furniture? I'm just thinking, what if they went into Mary's house and they got rid of all of her family heirlooms?
Robin's dollies?
Robin's dollies are in a dumpster somewhere.
What would happen? But man, that is Robin's dream though, right? Is to just be gone for a week on a all expenses paid, inclusive vacation, and come back and your house is 4 times the size it was when you left. I think that is a dream of Robin's to be had at some point.
Maybe they could get her on the show. Her dreams were dashed by her sister wives. Give her porch with all of her rocking chairs.
Cody and Ty wouldn't get along. They'd both be fighting for screen time.
Cody would insist on staying behind. He's not going on vacation. He needs to supervise the build.
I still got a couple of acres of trees I need to clear to get you guys close to the property.
They have him building something in the back with all the pilled logs.
Ty's going to give him a really important assignment that he's going to have to work on all week. Why don't you string these lights up? Why don't you go ahead and get the anchors bolted and then get your steel wire and your lights situated here?
Well, they're going to regret that, because they're going to be pulling that bus up and he's still going to be up on that ladder.
It got a little windy. I'm behind schedule.
Okay, fuck it. Give Cody and Robin a home makeover show on HGTV.
Wasn't that just that was the personality that Cody was trying to embody? He was trying to Ty Pennington us into rooting
right.
for his family. That was definitely what was going on in the earlier seasons, especially.
a little Ty Pennington, a dash of Michael Scott. We're going to figure out who else is in there.
Chip Gaines. A little bit of Chip Gaines in there too. But not the good stuff, just the ADD parts.
Everything seems great because the house is beautiful.
It is great in that moment because it's like, whoa, I've never even stepped foot in a house that's this beautiful, this large, because there's no other houses in my neighborhood that are this size. I've never even seen a house that's this big. And it's exciting. It's overwhelming. It's the reaction. You are seeing a lot of that. The reality behind it and the circumstances that unfold after that, that's the stuff where it gets lost. The cameras aren't there for that. When you get your electric bill and it's $2,200, which was probably 4 times what their mortgage was entirely on the house before this.
There is no way that no one at ABC put the pieces together that when you build a big house, it's going to cost a lot of money to upkeep that house, to pay the bills on it every month.
You know, some of the producers, they were able to concede that point where, yeah, I can see some of those higher end finishes. We had like a lap pool for people who were doing like physical recovery things. And so the people with pools and those luxury type items, yeah, there's probably a lot of cost associated with that they didn't really anticipate.
And this is only season 2 that both of the stories we're going to talk about are pulled from. So this is before they started giving them lumps of money because they were paying off their mortgage. They were giving them a house. They'd give them a car or whatever other product placement they had in the show. But eventually they end up giving them really big checks because they have to solve this problem somehow.
So that's crazy to me that they start doing that for later seasons, but then you don't go back to check on anybody. Those are the people that really went through it too, because then what ends up happening in this case is this is a family who lives in Arizona. They're struggling to make ends meet with now all these bills that are piling up. They're taking out loans just so they can pay the monthly utility bills. So now you have a mortgage on a house that was given to you mortgage free.
They said the electricity bill was more than their original mortgage.
Yes. And so now you are struggling to keep up with that. Then 2008 hits and we have the recession, the Great Recession, where the housing market is completely decimated and you cannot sell this $1.5 million home for more than $500,000.
Maybe you heard of it.
Have you?
I don't know. Wow. What bad timing.
Timing is everything.
And the fact that no one checked in on them from production, because it sounds like their story was making the news. The fact that they were having to take out $400,000 in loans eventually to pay for shit. They just dumped them with this house. And at one point, someone in the show, was that someone who was the producer on this show or just like a producer talking about the point of view of production?
Which person?
The blonde lady.
She was from seasons 1 through 3.
Okay. Well, at one point, she essentially says what happens afterwards is kind of their fault.
Yeah, that was where it was assigning the blame of, you know, there's a lot of people who got into these situations, financial dire straits.
Oh, you know, like their child is diagnosed with cancer and they have a ton of medical debt and have to take time off from work and, you know, all of that. That's all their fault. They got into this situation.
They burned through their savings recklessly, reckless spending. And so that's what happens afterwards, too. That was the assessment from this person. That was the main stance that was taken here. So there was a lot of blaming that was going on. And I think the reason why all those stories started picking up, it was some of the lawsuits and stuff in the other family that we follow here, too, this episode.
So there's 2 families involved in this story.
This is what?
The Higgins Leomenis? Leomenis? I missed their last name.
Okay.
They're the ones who suck anyway.
Yeah, this is a rough one because the Higgins family, their mom had passed away and then their dad had passed away very close in time to each other there. And so they were essentially like kind of like adopted by
Leomenis.
the Leomenis. the
Phil. Wasn't that the guy's name?
Sure.
The dad's name was Phil. We
Well-
didn't learn about any of the other people in the family, just Phil.
Now I'm just picturing it's Bam Margera's dad, Phil, but okay.
So that's their story, their origin story of how they got onto Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Those are the heartstrings that they're tugging on, is orphan children who are now being taken in by this nice, loving, caring family. So we're going to reward them with a brand new house and a whole bunch of cars.
I got to tell you, red flags going up for me as soon as I hear the story of, a situation where I don't think orphan is that an acceptable word?
That's what they kept saying.
All right. Well, I don't know. Should we take the cues from people making reality TV when we're watching a show about a horrible reality television show?
Well, here's my other tie back to Natalia Grace is that, yes, this felt very reminiscent.
That's where I was going with this.
Yes, yeah. Somebody at ABC was saying, get me a kid with Benjamin Button disease, but little did they know, we got this instead.
We could have had Michael.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would have been something. Move that bus. Another person who would be competing nonstop for screen time with Ty Pennington.
He would have had an amazing reaction, though. You know how much he would have played it up for the camera?
He would have done cartwheels. Like, he would have been doing like halftime gymnast stuff that would be going on, like cheerleading all the way down the field.
Can we remake this show, but then the people that think that they're being chosen to be on it are people who have bad karma?
Oh, just terrible people. Yeah. But then what? Oh, okay. Yeah. Because then it's like you think it's a good thing, but then actually it's a terrible thing because now your electric bill is $5,000 a month. We took care of the mortgage. Don't worry about that. Your taxes are going to go through the roof too. Your assessment is out of control for this neighborhood.
Oh, I'm sorry. We missed the craziest part of the other story.
Oh, no.
You're going to get robbed.
Oh, right.
People are just repeatedly going to try to break into your house.
Because they think that you just have a bunch of money now because they showed around like what was in the house. There wasn't really that extravagant stuff.
They want to steal the stuff inside the house.
They want to steal the stuff. But then also that's what they were saying. Maybe if it was like, if somebody was watching a newer episode where they do get a good bit of money and then they're thinking, well, this person was on Extreme Home Makeover. Maybe they weren't talking about that big pile of money that they just handed them as part of this too. So I'm going to go take a look. Not that I'm
it's stored in the home.
Well,
somewhere,
yeah. Well,
concealed.
And then also that just goes to show if you're watching the later episodes, no, they don't give a shit about anybody from seasons 1, 2, and 3 anymore.
Also, word of caution: maybe don't hide money in your house.
Yeah, it's not
at least
good.
Not well. What if Ty Pennington shows up and they just blow your house up one day while you're not home?
Yeah, and you've got your life savings in the primary mattress. That's not going to do you any good now.
What were we talking about? The Higgins family?
The Higgins. Yeah, the orphan, which we don't know. Is orphan? I'm going to have to look it up.
You're going to have to look it up. But the big part of what they talk about is that it was pretty shitty because they were all going through this really tough time. They had all been traumatized by the very close succession of the passings of their parents. And that's all the producers wanted to talk about. They kept probing them about, can you talk about that more? Can you be more emotional for us? Can you also pretend to have fun on this Disney cruise? Because that's really important.
That was, the guy producer that they were talking to, that seemed to be his biggest issue, was because he was in charge of kind of that B crew of taking the family out on vacation, getting great footage of everyone having such a good time, which is really, really hard to do when they are in their most vulnerable state. They have just suffered unspeakable tragedy in different cases or different circumstances that they've come across here. And then let's go have some fun. Do you want to go on the lazy river?
And there's got to be all this anxiety of what is the house going to be like when we're done? What are we returning home to?
Well, because then they just send them little tapes of their house being demolished or torn down or destroyed, and then that's all you're left with.
Yeah, that helps with the anxiety.
That should ease that a little bit for you. Have you ever seen the show? Are you familiar with the format here that we have going on?
The big thing that happened in their episode is Ford gifted them a ton of cars. Normally, they'll give them 1 or 2 vehicles. But because there were so many adult children in this family, they gave everyone a car, except for Phil. which Phil noticed.
And he's not real a big fan of the Ford hybrids at that time.
Was that it? They did give him a car, right? Didn't they give him a 2005 Ford Expedition?
And it was a hybrid. And at that time, hybrids were hot, baby. Hybrids were a big deal, let me tell you, because gas was $4.18 a gallon at the time. So, yeah, gas was hard to come by.
2005?
Oh, maybe not that
It was a little
early.
later.
It was a little later.
Was it? Who knows? It was not a great time.
Wouldn't recommend.
But you know what Phil wants? Phil wants a pickup truck.
A diesel.
That should be
probably.
really good. That should really be good for gas mileage.
Yeah, gas mileage and just general fuel economy.
And packing all the kids up in the car.
Yeah, safety ratings, just all those different things.
I think you're okay if you get in an accident in a truck. The other party is probably not.
Not if the kids are in the bed of it. Yeah, that's not
Oh,
gonna do any good.
you do not let anyone ride in the bed of a pickup truck.
Allegedly. That is the official stance of the podcast. Correct. Do not allow. I'll have to check with the producers on that.
They wrapped the episode. Everything seemed great. They got everything they wanted as far as like production did. And then they're at this dinner afterwards. And Phil is telling the kids, you need to tell them that you want to trade in two of your cars.
Cards?
Cars.
Whose cards?
Cars. Two of your vehicles.
You got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them.
And that's when I'm going to get my truck, okay? And the producers were like,
Huh.
that's an odd request.
Kind of weird. Kind of strange.
Everyone seems so grateful and happy.
And we did all the paperwork to get you this many cars that were just free. So I don't know, maybe you could just like sell them or something on your own accord. But we're not going to go do all of that to revoke two vehicles that we have gifted to you and then try to get another free car lined up for you instead. That sounds like a whole lot of work. And I only have 2 days off before my next home that I have to go destroy.
I'm all caught up. I can't go to the dealership.
I am
They're
busy.
closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
I only have 2 days off. That's one of them.
It's not going to happen.
That being said, the producers had a clue that something wasn't right. Maybe this family that they featured in this episode, the story wasn't completely kosher.
It doesn't pass the sniff test in a lot of ways. But the kids, the general thing that the kids are saying from their experience, I don't think the producers really cared. What we were going through, what we were feeling, our emotional state for anything, even if the producers felt like something was kind of off, didn't really matter because then they air the episode and it is wildly successful. The most watched episode that they've ever had. 16.5 million people watched this show and loved it. Every second of it.
And they keep re-airing it. And in the meantime, these kids don't even live in this house anymore.
The problem becomes, yes, they air the episode. It's wildly successful. In that span of time, 6 months, I think, after the home makeover takes place, all of those kids, the Higgins kids, have moved out because Phil is unbearable to live with. And it became a very strange power dynamic where now this is their house. You have to live by their rules. And then everybody just kind of went their separate ways in that span of time.
This was really depressing to me because the attitude from Phil seemed to be, I took you in, so you owe me X, Y, and Z.
This house is my benefit for that. Yeah, that is my reward for taking you in for a couple of months, which then raises a whole legal dispute because then the kids who were involved, they had a contract with ABC where they thought that there was some sort of ownership that should have been considered as part of their compensation. There was an implied level of investment in that house, like that is their house as part of this.
They said the contract essentially promised them a place to live, and they don't have a place to live. Every single one of them no longer lives in Phil's house.
But then what they're saying is then Phil's rules are the problem for that. So then now you have to take that case to them, the people who took you in their house.
They do sue them both. They sued ABC and they sued Phil.
And that was basically what ended up happening was ABC said, that's not our problem. That's between you guys. So you need to sort that out. And so that one was dismissed. And then they had to go through the process for, what did they get? $50,000
And there were 5 of them. And then
Split
they said, but after they paid their lawyers and everything, they didn't get anything. And that's not even really what they wanted. There were contents inside the house, like pictures of their deceased parents and their belongings that they had to leave behind when they all moved out one at a time. He didn't give any of that back to them. Still hasn't.
Maybe that's why these houses get broken into so much. Because now you have a dispute. People have been left out. Their belongings are still there, and now they have to go and claim them, reclaim them.
The official stance of the podcast is not to break into someone's home to reclaim your property.
I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending it.
How pissed was TLC?
TLC?
How pissed?
ABC.
How pissed do you think they were that they got sued?
Oh, pretty fucking pissed.
Don't ever sue the mouse, guys. Don't tell them you're litigious.
No.
That's not good.
No.
Mm-mm. This does open a whole can of worms, though, because what happens is other families start speaking out about all of the fallout from the episodes that they were on and the horrible experiences that they've had. And it really runs the gamut. There's a lot of bad shit that came out of this show.
And as it turns out, I mean, like, this was around the time where it was like, yeah, there's a lot of foreclosures. And it was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense because statistically, around that time, the definite uptick.
Weren't a lot of them built for shit, too?
See, that didn't come up as part of this. And
I
remember
remember that, though, that they were not, like, very well made in all circumstances.
I mean, I can believe that. Yeah, it's a house that's built in 7 days from the ground up, from the foundation up.
Is that even enough time to, like, let things cure?
Did you? Well, it's not a gingerbread house, but are you able to do the proper, like, the codes, the checks, the inspectors who have to come and look at the different levels of completion and things that are going on for those types of constructions?
Is it a strain on the local municipality?
I'm sure, yeah, because people have to come by and inspect. There's inspectors who have to look at this stuff in order to get the seal of approval to move to the next steps.
Make sure it's not just going to all, like, implode in on itself at some point.
Yeah, that you didn't line the foundation with more dynamite so that you could demolish it again
It's on a
in a
sinkhole.
couple of years.
I don't think the mouse is too stressed, though, because they made $500 million in advertising.
You know, ABC was doing okay. They lined their pockets with this, which that's the part for me that really bothers me about it is, like, couldn't you just tie in something else about that, or like from a budgetary thing to help out where it's, hey, what were your bills before? Okay, we'll make up the difference to an extent, or like prorate it or something, like to work that out where you're not just causing unnecessary financial stress for these people in the future.
Or how about you stop building the houses so big?
Just ginormous.
Maybe make it a reasonably sized house.
Well, no, because then that doesn't televise as well.
People fight to enter the HGTV Dream Home contest every year.
Some people, Carly. Not everyone goes at it with the same level of intensity as you.
Guys, I live for the reveal of the HGTV Dream Home.
It's so shitty.
And I know, well, it used to be a lot better.
Well, this one this year, I was like, what is this? It wasn't even on its own lot. It was like in a neighborhood. It was a flip. It was a reno.
They've started doing that, which I get the point of, like, it's a little bit more sustainable than building a house from scratch. Maybe they're trying to do some things that ABC didn't, okay?
Did you blow up a house?
Wrongs.
Did you blow up the house as part of the renovation? I've lost interest then.
The thing that's disappointed me is I feel like they used to talk a lot more about, like, the technology and, like, new features in the house. And now they don't, unless it's a product placement. So they'll talk about, like, 3 things in the home, and that's it. And basically everything else is pretty standard of what you would see in a regular house.
Most of the technology is just blinds and awnings that automatically retract based on the weather.
I'm just looking for innovation. I'm looking for ideas, inspiration, innovation, okay?
Or it's
worthy up.
Or it's TVs that are just in places where TVs really shouldn't be going. That's what they keep doing now.
Oh, that's our other favorite thing, is to stop and just analyze every room and pick apart everything about it that we hate.
Hate it.
Now we're gonna get asked to do this.
Well, no, those ones are terrible. And we always, here's the other great part. You do not watch the whole episode.
No, you fast forward to the last like 5 minutes.
15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
I'm not invested in watching them design it.
When they're walking through it at the end, that's what you need to see. That's it. That's the only part that's good.
But maybe they could build something that is a house that fits within the neighborhood that it's in, that has the accommodations that the family needs, and then call it a day.
That doesn't sound like the American dream, Carly. It sounds like...
Instead, let me live in a mansion that's going to bankrupt me, and I'll never be able to resell.
That's America. Yes. Okay. Good.
Well, that's the episode.
Let us know what you think.
Drop it in the comments. Chat on the Discord in the Let's Talk About It channel. Move that bus.
Good morning, podcasting family. Oh, that's how we should have started it.
Or you guys can just think that it started over again.
Yeah, maybe
it looped.
It's playing on repeat now.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.